Prejudice. Wrote a song about it. Like to hear it? Here it go. Free your mind.
Welcome to the Atheist Experience. I am your host today, Karen Glasser, here with co-host Andy Roberts and special guest Virginia Glasser, who will be late. Women, I swear. We're coming to you today with a special episode of the Atheist Experience, a show that has been talked about for 2 years now. We have we have given our regular host Ashley Perry the day off so that we can bring you an all-women's experience of the Atheist show, representing women atheists around the world. We know many of you viewers have no experience with atheists, and those of you that have experience often think that we are either bitter old women or bald. But today we're going to bring you a new look at atheism. Before we go into our discussion, I'd like to say some brief announcements. The Atheist Experience is a non-profit educational organization dedicated to promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. The Atheist Experience is sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin. The Atheist Community of Austin is all those things I just said. We have, by the way, this is my first time being the host of this show as opposed to the co-host, in case you hadn't caught that. So, anyway. We have weekly meetings every Sunday at Crescent City Beignets on 6th Street, a couple blocks west of Lamar. Those meetings start at 11:30. On the third Sunday of every month, we have our lecture series at the Austin History Center at 9th and Guadalupe. That was today, and today we had a special speaker, Shannon Raw, talking about the health textbook hearings. Oh my goodness. Excuse me a moment, we're having some technical difficulties in the studio. Maybe I should just start over. Anyway, should I start over? Okay. Shannon Raw today was our guest speaker of the monthly lecture series talking about health textbooks and the recent effort to promote abstinence-only education in health textbooks in schools. Other regular events that we have, every Thursday we have Atheist Happy Hour at Antonio's Tex-Mex on southbound feeder of I-35, just south of 183. That starts at 7:30. We also have our internet audio show, The Nonprofits, hosted at atheistnetwork.com. That runs every other Saturday from 2 to 3:30. The last episode was yesterday, starring Russell Glasser, who's the producer. I was one of the guests of the show yesterday, Martin Wagner and Jeff D. So that's it for our regular announcements. I'd like to remind you that this is a live call-in show on Sundays from 4:30 to 6. You can see reruns of the show at the same time on Tuesdays. We're going to, well, I don't know, what do you think? Should we go straight to phones or should we talk for a little bit?
You can talk for a little bit.
Okay. I think we should go straight to phones. I guess I'm going to start with an introduction of myself. My name is Karen Glasser. I'm 25. I'm a lifelong and fourth-generation Jewish atheist. I practice Judaism culturally, and I practice atheism as my faith. I have been in here in Austin for 2 years now, active in the atheist community. I'm a social worker. I work with older adults. Andy?
My name is Andy Roberts. I am 23. I am originally from Austin, but I live in Arkansas now. I'm just down here on vacation. I'll be attending law school in Arkansas on starting Tuesday. So that's why I'm up there right now. I've been an active member of ACA for, well, I was for 2 years before I left to move to Arkansas.
Okay, great. So Andy is going to be our resident lawyer as soon as she gets back from Arkansas. She's in town visiting for 2 weeks, and we've been lucky. I think, have you been on the show both weeks?
No, I was crew last week.
Okay, she was crew last week. Good. It's always good to have Andy in town. And meanwhile, she's living in the other Bible Belt. Yay. I think it'd probably be a good idea to go straight to putting the phone number up on the screen. We're going to take calls pretty quickly today. And again, Jenny, who's going to be joining us a little bit later, she's a native Texan. She's an atheist. She's also the mother of 3 children. She is homeschooling her children. She made the decision to pull her children out of school partially because of all the prayer in schools stuff that was going on, all the textbook hearings that were going on about trying to get creationism into biology textbooks, trying to get, and now this new speaker that we had today, kind of feel bad that I didn't make it to the meeting this morning, but this new speaker that we had this morning, there's a new textbook hearing going on, trying to promote abstinence only in health textbooks as opposed to promoting birth control. I know there's always a continuing effort among the Christian right to promote Christian values in textbooks. And one of the topics of conversation that I'm really interested in personally is, and this isn't so much about the health textbook, because health textbooks aren't promoting that you should not have birth control, for example, but that you should not teach about it. But I would like to speak a little bit about birth control. I guess it's primarily a Catholic view and a fundamentalist view in Christianity that birth control is bad and evil and is murder and should be made illegal. But one of the interesting things, I mean, there are other reasons to have birth control on the market than just for the purpose of birth control. I have some friends that use it to prevent things like ovarian cysts or to treat things like ovarian cysts. My best friend has been using it for that cause. I started using it when I was about 18 because to treat irregular cycles, to treat really bad symptoms, menstrual cramps, just health. There's many health-related reasons to use it. I'm stumbling over my tongue here. So, help.
Control's an area I don't know a whole lot about.
Don't know much about.
I can't help
and
you
I
out
wasn't
there.
at this thing today, so we're just going to sit here and talk about atheism. I really would like some callers to call in and ask us some questions. What, you didn't put the phone number up earlier? I asked you to put the number up, losers. Anyway, so we're here to talk about atheism. I guess I'm just going to jump right into talking a little bit more about our show. The point of this show, we go back and forth, is educational. We like to go on the air and talk to people about what it means to be an atheist, what it means, as I said before earlier in my introduction, which you might not have heard because I didn't have my microphone on. A lot of people don't have very many experience interacting with atheists, and a lot of the stuff that they know about atheists, they probably heard through their preachers. In my opinion, atheism is not in my opinion, but atheism is the lack of a belief in God. That is the essence of it, and I guess how you live your life is based on the fact that you don't believe in God. You don't. Just a moment. We have a caller. I'm going to go straight to the caller. On line 1, we have Joe. Hello?
Yeah, this is Joe, and this is very interesting and everything, but could you take your top off?
No. Anyway, thank you.
Not what this show's about.
Yeah, that's not what this show is about. Again, this show is about educating people about atheists. And if you have any questions for us that are relevant and related to atheism or related to women's experiences, you're welcome to give us a call. My experience growing up is rather different from other people's experiences because I am a fourth-generation Jewish atheist, so I have been raised with both. And I was raised an atheist, but I was also taught by my father about all religions of the world. I was basically, his approach to my education was to feed me all possible information and to allow me to make my own choice about it. I was sent to religious school growing up. I was both bat mitzvahed and confirmed, but I have always been an atheist. I didn't come to that realization at some point in my life. I honestly don't ever remember a time when I believed in God. And I believe that has led to how I live my life. I am a social worker. I believe that a lot of people use religion when they think something bad is going on in their life. They will pray to God to make it better, but the way I take that into myself is the way I view if something bad is going on in my life or something bad is going on in the world around me, I know there's no God out there for me to pray to make it better for me, so I do things myself. I do things for myself. I go out and I help the world, which is why I became a social worker. I felt there's a lot of underdogs out there in the world, and I wanted to be able to help them and provide them with services and create a better world for people who are in a bad place in life, not because they did something wrong, but just because that's sort of the, whatever health reasons they have that led them there, whatever government systems they have that led them there, and be there to help them out. It also plays into my theory about how I live my life, the value I find in it. I think of myself as a very moral person, a very ethical person. A lot of my friends would call me kind of an extremist in terms of my morals and ethics, because I do believe that since I'm an atheist, I don't believe in heaven or hell or afterlife or reincarnation or God or any of that stuff. So I think that this life that we have now is the only one we've got, and it is important that we make the most of it. We get the most out of it. We positively influence the most people. We get the most enjoyment we can out of it, and we don't do anything to mess up anybody else's lives. I've done some shows before. I made one attempt at doing a show on the fact that I'm a vegan because since I don't believe in a soul and I don't believe in an afterlife, I believe that when you take something's life, you can't give it back. And so therefore I practice veganism sort of as part of my atheism. And that is by no means a widespread atheist belief. That is, I'm the only one I know of that practices that lifestyle for that reason. But that's sort of the kind of thinking that I'm led to in the way I choose to live my life. So we do have lined up callers. I'm going to go ahead and I can't see who the caller on line 1 is.
Didn't go to line 3.
Okay, I'm going to go to line 3 is Elizabeth. Looks like she was the next one that called in. Hi, welcome to the Atheist Experience, Elizabeth. Hello?
Maybe this is Ty?
Ty. Ooh, I pressed line 2, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we've got all of our lines crossed tonight.
That's okay. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Great. I was interested in the single scene because I'm looking for someone that is an atheist because I'm single. I've been not recently divorced, but I'm divorced. But I'm just curious about the Antonio's Happy Hour.
Okay, well, Antonio's Happy Hour isn't so much a singles event. It's just a bunch of people that get together and they philosophize and kibitz. And
yes,
you're welcome to...
It could be...
sure.
It could be a single scene type of thing because...
Absolutely. I don't know what that was. But anyway, yeah, well, that's a very good point. It's nice for atheists to be able to hook up with other atheists and meet them because when you're trying to build a relationship, it's nice to be able to build it on a basis of having something in common. And I know that religion can be a big strain between people if they don't share the same beliefs and values. I personally have, tried Match.com a few times myself, and I've found there to be a lot of atheist men on Match.com. I don't know how many atheist women there are, but they are out there. We do have bagels at Crescent City Beignets every Sunday, and there's a pretty big group of people out there, and that is our main event. And so, you know, if you're looking to meet other people, absolutely show up at the bagel shop. There's tons of people, and we're always looking to invite more, and it's a good place to go. Okay, so I guess we'll go to our next caller, Elizabeth, on line 3. Hello? Elizabeth? Is maybe not there anymore? Okay, then.
And we still don't know who's on line 1.
And I still don't know who's on line 1. Is anybody on line 1? Hello? No. All right, so we don't have any calls, so again, feel welcome to call into the show. Andy, I'd like to know a little bit about your experiences as an atheist.
Well, my experience is very different than yours. I was born into a Christian family. I realized that a lot of it didn't make sense to me when I was young, probably about 10, but I didn't know. I'd always heard all the things that atheists are evil, but I never heard what an atheist actually was until I was in 9th grade and in a civics class, and the teacher was talking about political groups, and one of them was atheist, and I was like, oh, that's what I am. I'm not weird, because my family never taught me what atheist meant. They just taught me that it was this bad thing. So, but since then, I had to actually keep quiet in my family because my mom, although I love her, isn't as open to the idea as a lot of other people in my family have been. And it wasn't actually until I came down to Austin, back to Austin. My family lived in Arkansas before I went to college. When I came back to Austin for college, I got hooked up with ACA, and that's when I learned to be outspoken about it and not worry about what other people said, because I had a group that I could fall back on no matter what anyone else said. And I approach life a lot different than even people in my family do, and I think that's partly due to my atheism. I don't care. Obviously don't believe in a superior being, so when I think about morals, I think about what I would want people to do to me. Like, I'm not going to go steal something from somebody because I wouldn't want someone to do it for me. And I believe that the way when you die, you're gone, but the way that you obtain some kind of immortality is through good deeds and doing good things and having your values and what you've taught people passed on through the generations.
Okay. Good. Great. So, and again, I'm going to promote that this is a live call-in show on Sundays from 4:30 to 6. And if you are interested in calling into the show, you can talk to us on the air and ask us your questions. We're going to go back to line 1. Ty is calling back. Got cut off earlier. Ty?
Yeah, I got cut off prematurely there.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was talking about the single scene, and my mother has been talking to me about going out with this one girl who is a Catholic, and I've voiced to her that, you know, I'm not really interested in that, and we're in front of a large group, and she was like, oh, no, don't say that. But I have sworn to myself that I'm not going to go through that religious scene for myself, you know, with my next marriage, because I've been divorced before, and I've seen from my grandfather, and actually all of my grandfathers were atheists. And every guy that I had known through the church, I don't want to call them gay, but they were just not my type, you know. They were just... Anyway, I think that there should be a voice out there for people that should connect. And I think your happy hour is a great venue for that. And the bagel shop sounds great. I've never been there. I've been a long-time viewer for, God, since 91, 92. But... I'm sorry, so God. But no, I think that we do need this arena out there for people to get together. Mm-hmm. And so I'd like to come down. I was just wondering how many people are out there that are single and available. And
well, I mean, I can't give you any numbers, but I know they are out there, and I believe there are various different, I think actually if you go to our website, we have a link to different atheist dating websites. Our website, again, is www.atheist-community.org. And we have a link. There's a few different atheist dating websites out there. I would say the larger, more popular dating websites would have atheists on them. And there's also other atheist social groups in town. There's an atheist meetup occasionally. I don't know what the link is to that.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that's what we need to know. We need to all get together.
Absolutely. And a big part of the point of the Atheist Community of Austin is just, giving atheists a chance to get together and socialize, because a lot of the ways that people meet friends is through whatever religious organization they're affiliated with. They go to their churches, they go to their youth groups, they go to, their campus clubs, and atheists, don't really have much to do on Sunday mornings and don't really have many ways to meet people, especially if in Austin, most men work at, big computer companies that only have other men there, and I know it can be a trial. But
I've seen problems, though, with people that don't agree. As I was mentioning with my grandfather, my grandmother was very religious, and I saw the problems because he didn't want to go to church. And she was always, I don't know, I don't want to say anything bad about her, but she let him have it, so to speak. And I don't want to put myself through that.
Yeah, sure.
And so I'd like to find, the next marriage I have, because my in-laws were very, very Lutheran, very religious, small-town Lutherans, German. So I don't want to go through that again.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything negative towards them, but I think we need a common ground to meet.
Sure.
All like-minded people that agree on some sort are going to find each other at some point. And this is a chance for them to find each other.
Absolutely.
At Antonio's or at the bagel shop.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Well, feel free to show up. And anybody else out there, men, women, single, whatever, feel free to show up at Antonio's Tex-Mex at 7 p.m. or every Thursday, or at the bagel shop on Sundays. We'd love to have you. Thanks.
I'll be there, Karen.
Great. Thanks for calling. Great. Okay, good. We're going to go to the next caller. Is Kelly. Kelly?
Hi.
Hi.
I was calling to ask, to learn a little more about what y'all believe in. What has happened in y'all's lives for y'all to not believe in God?
Want me to field that one?
Sure.
All right. It's not that what happened to make me not believe in a God. It's what didn't happen to make me believe in a God. I don't ever honestly remember believing what my parents and my family and their church were trying to teach me, because it just didn't make sense to me. They weren't able to answer my questions. I'm not closed to the idea of there being a God. I'm just saying that I don't see any evidence to tell me there is a God, and until such time, I don't believe.
Okay. Did you have more questions, or did that answer your question?
Yeah.
I mean, I can answer it too, but my answer is pretty much the same as hers. I don't really ever remember a time when I believed in God. It just doesn't quite add up to me. I'm a pretty evidence-driven person.
Well, what did God not do?
God didn't do anything. I mean, God hasn't done anything in my life ever to reveal His presence. I've never seen Him. I've never heard Him. I've never spoken with Him. I've never really seen any evidence that He exists. The things, the Bible is very...
What do y'all believe? How did y'all get here?
What?
Do y'all believe in Adam and Eve?
I'm not really sure I can answer that question. I mean, I believe that I got here because my parents gave birth to me, and I believe they got here because their parents gave birth to them, and I have no evidence to prove that there were two people on the earth whose names were Adam and whose names were Eve, and I certainly believe they came from somewhere other than the dirt and each other's ribs.
So who do y'all think created Adam and Eve?
Their parents. I mean, the question you're asking me is there an ultimate creator? Is there somewhere that it all got started? And I mean, the best that I can tell you is I believe what science has been able to prove so far. I believe that science is getting better and better at finding out where things came from. I don't know that there ever was a one first place that it started. I don't know if I believe there was ever a one first place that it started. I don't know that there had to be. But I find that the question you're asking me really leads to, I mean, you're trying to figure out where do I believe that it came from, and if I can't answer that question, then the answer must be God. But the way I answer that question is, well, where did God come from? I mean...
Do y'all believe in the theory of evolution?
Yes. Let me ask you that question back. Where do you think God came from? Kim? Are you there?
That was Kelly.
Kelly? That was Kelly. Okay. All right. Well, I guess we lost her. But, yeah, a lot of people ask me, where do I think that, you know, where did I come from? Where did my ancestors come from? Where did it all get started? And honestly, I mean, if you're going to answer that question by saying, well, if you can't answer the question, where did it all come from, then it must have come from God, then I'm going to throw the question right back at you and say, where did God come from? Yeah. And I always get the same answer. I always got the answer, God didn't come from anywhere, God was just there. And I'm not going to give that, I mean, I just kind of take that equation and I move it a step forward. I cut out the God part and I say, you know,
it opens the door to a circular reasoning because, or a dead-end kind of reasoning because you're saying that, well, we had to have come from somewhere, so there has to be a God because we came from somewhere and we can't define where that somewhere is, so that has to be God. But if you're saying that God has just always been there or something like that, then why couldn't we just have always been there, or why couldn't something have created God? It's just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It answers the question, but it asks so many more questions.
Right. It just doesn't really answer the question. I think it's really important to note that most atheists and most people who follow science or believe in evolution, I mean, we recognize and admit that we don't know the answer yet. We do not have ultimate knowledge, but we sure know a heck of a lot more than we knew 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago. We know that the Earth is round, not flat. We know that we're not alone in the universe in terms of other planets and other star systems. We know a lot more than we knew, you know, a long time ago, and I have every faith in the world that in the next 100 years, the next 1,000 years, we're going to learn a whole lot more. And we might not ever figure out everything there is to know about the entire universe, but we're going to learn a lot of it. And what we don't know yet, we just don't know yet. That doesn't mean that it was God. Okay, I'm going to go to the next caller.
That would be Kim.
Would be Kim on line 3. Hi, Kim.
Hey.
Hey.
Listen, I got a question for you.
Yes.
I come from a loosely faith-based family and very scientific in nature, and recently had a grandparent pass away. And was put in a position where I was explaining to my 4-year-old niece where my grandmother went. And my sister's much more strongly a believer in Christianity than I am. And I learned that it was very difficult to explain, you know, to my niece, who's 4, where my grandmother went, because, you know, I don't know that she's out there floating around with wings and a halo. So as a person who deals with older Americans and people who are coming into their last few years of their life, how would you suggest talking with children who are really at a point in their lives where they can't understand just not being there anymore, and they can't really understand the difference between someone's belief in heaven versus someone's disbelief in heaven? I mean, how would you go about explaining death to a child?
And
this might be a question that's more appropriate for Jenny, because she does have children, but, I mean...
Yeah, it'd definitely be good to pose that question again when she comes onto the show. If she comes onto the show, I'm really hoping she's going to make it. But it's a good question. Again, I have more experience. I mean, I don't have children. I have worked with children in the past, but I have more experience working with older adults. And when it comes to older adults, they pretty much already know what they believe in, and they're pretty set in their ways. And when you're talking to them, you know, as a social worker, I never question their belief. I just kind of, whatever makes them feel important and feel comfortable in their lives at this point is whatever I go with when I'm talking to them. talking to children, I mean, I can tell you what I believe about death. I can tell you that I believe that, I mean, at a certain point you just die and your, body decays, and I don't know really how you would explain that to a 4-year-old child. I think they're actually, I mean, I think in learning about stuff like death, it's a good, I think right now a lot of things that we tell my 2-year-old nephew, when something goes away, not necessarily when something dies, I'm not so sure he's dealt with death yet, but when something goes away, when something's not there anymore, we tell them that it went night-night. I don't know if that helps. I certainly don't want to lie to him. But I think that children can sort of understand death throughout their lives just by dealing with it more and more. And I think that's a really good reason why in child development you need to provide them with things like pets and plants and different things that you can see the cycle of their life. My nephew just got kittens for the first time, and they garden a lot, and they have chickens that lay eggs every day, and they've got a lot of life flowing around them. So you can see, that he's just going to grow up, and eventually he's just kind of going to gain an understanding just by interacting with life and death of what life and death is all about.
Well, and I guess my question would be more geared towards the comfort aspect. I mean, as even adults, we tend to have people in our lives when we lose someone who say, oh, they've gone to a better place. And if you don't necessarily think that they've gone to a better place, that they're just gone now, I mean, there's that whole question of how do you give a 4-year-old comfort when they can't really understand that?
Well, yeah, I would probably say something along the lines of, they went to sleep and they didn't wake up. They're not going to be here anymore, but they're still with us in our memories, and we can think about them, and we can see pictures of them, and we can, maybe, and with new technologies, we can watch videos of them, and remind them that we're all going to miss them, and it's going to be sad for a little while, but at least we have them in our memories.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, cool, thanks.
Feel free to call back in and answer the question again if Jenny decides to show up.
We'll see how your callers are going.
All right, thanks you.
Bye.
Bye.
That's kind of a hard one.
That is a very, very hard question.
I've got a nephew who's going to be 5 at the end of this month, and my mom had a cardiac arrest and almost died about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. And as she was asking, I'm sitting there, I don't know how I would deal with that with my nephew. So... But
it's a hard question. Death is a hard thing to deal with. It's a very scary thing to deal with it. And I think that more often than not in our culture, we tend to do everything we can to try to ignore it. And especially, and I've done whole shows of the Atheist Experience. It's hard to deal with as an atheist because a lot of the rituals and ceremonies that are out there are geared towards believing that this person's soul is still lingering around for you to say goodbye to and say fond things to, and that, they've gone on to a better place, and that, God is going to keep them and all this kind of stuff. And we don't believe that in atheism, and it makes it really hard for us to deal with death in the fact that we don't have rituals. And I think that rituals and ceremonies are very, very important because it can help you deal with it. It can, you can...
gives you a sense of closure.
It gives you a sense of closure. I mean, I'd say for an atheist, you could have the same funeral, only instead of saying goodbye to that person, you are with a bunch of other people whose lives were touched by that person, sharing their mourning and their miseries and their good memories, and you can stand up and just share good memories about that person, so you kind of leave it off on a happy note. And the process of the ceremony, you can see, if it's like an open casket funeral, you can see the person is dead. So, you can come to grips with the reality of the fact that, they didn't just move to New York. They didn't just kind of stop contacting you. They actually died. And it's just kind of being able to grasp the reality of it so that you can come to terms with it and then move on with your life. And same with, watching them be buried into the ground and saying final rites. I think all that is about, coming to terms with what has happened and not allowing yourself to just kind of fantasize or romanticize away, you know, whatever reason they're not here anymore. And I think it's important to be able to have those ceremonies for children and for adults, because they can give you a grieving period, they can give you company, and yeah, that's it, I guess. Okay, so did you have anything else about that?
You covered about everything I was going to
Good.
say.
I should let you talk more. I'm going to go on to the next caller online.
It's all right. When I'm a lawyer, I won't
Who's
be giving
next?
anyone else time.
Jennifer, on line 2. Jennifer?
Hi.
Hi.
I suppose it's more of a comment than a question. I would just like to hear your opinion. I noticed that I've never watched the show before, but my understanding as a Christian of the word atheist, you believe in no God whatsoever. Is that correct?
That's right.
No,
Okay.
I wouldn't say that. I don't say that I don't believe in God or something like that. Or I believe in no God, I think is how she put it. That it's a lack of belief. It's not that I believe there is. I'm not saying I don't believe. I believe there is no God. I'm saying I don't believe in God.
Okay. I guess so. My comment is that what you keep mentioning, what I keep hearing, is the Christian God only. There's no mention of any kind of pagan beliefs, anything other than a Christian God. And like I said, this is more of a comment. Just weigh in on pagan beliefs. You've made your comments on Christian God.
Sure.
What about other types of God that other religions, other beliefs
Well, I mean,
embrace?
basically, I mean, if you break down the word atheist, the prefix a means without, and theist means God or religion. So we are without God and religion.
Yes.
That applies to all gods and all religions. I don't believe in any of it. And we do more often than not talk about Christians and Christian gods because it's more common, it's easier. We live in a primarily Judeo-Christian community, and there are all kinds of other religions, but the one really that's in our face the most is Christianity, and the one that is governing our country the most is Christianity, and the one that is always in the news the most about the Pledge of Allegiance case and the Ten Commandments monuments and the health textbook hearings and the biology textbooks hearings, that all tends to be driven by Christians more than anything else. And so, I mean, just by default, we tend to talk more about the Christian God than any other. But, I mean, occasionally stories come up on the news from other countries and other religions and other things that go on in the world, and we talk about that too. It just doesn't come up as often.
Okay, I was just curious, because like I said, it seemed pervasive, and there was, always the mention of God, as in His name is God, and not being, higher being.
Right.
And I wanted to hear your opinion on that, and I appreciate it.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, if we lived in a Muslim country, we'd be probably talking about Allah
Probably talk
more.
about that the most,
It's just a matter of geography right now.
And really, I mean, I have had a lot of people come up to me and try and present the argument to me that, well, if you don't believe in God, it's because you don't believe in my God, or you don't believe in that other person's God, but my God is different than that other person's God, and I'm going to tell you all about my God because I think that you'd believe in Him if you understood that my God's not the same as that God that you don't like and therefore don't believe in. I mean, I can't dislike something that I don't believe in, so that's not really the case. Okay. On line 3, I think, was next. Wait, I'm going to go to line 1 because I think that was next. Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. My question to you guys was, how do you deal personally with people that you may meet or know, and they may be really religious or whatever, and you don't want to offend them, and when they bring things up of that nature, you just really want to let them have their space and, not lose that contact with them as people, because I've noticed myself sometimes people tend to push away if they realize that I don't believe in God. So how do you guys basically deal with that? Because I think a lot of people on under the notion that if you don't believe in God, then they don't want to have any kind of contact with you.
Yeah.
When I say gods, I use that in a plural form because, you know, I'm talking about maybe Muslims, Christians, whatever, you know, because I know a variety of different people. And I just tend not to, I don't want to offend anyone by going into depth by, you know, my reasons for not believing in a God or whatnot. Because I found that in the past it kind of throws people off.
Yeah.
And being that I'm a man of color, you know, a lot of times I think a lot of the people that I deal with, or my people per se, they have this process, this thought in their head where if you don't believe in a God, I don't need to be dealing with you.
It's a good question. I deal with it a lot in my work because, you know, I'm a social worker at a nursing home, and many of the residents that I work with are, first of all, you know, getting closer to what they believe is going to be meeting their God, and they're very strongly religious, and I certainly don't want to offend them at all. I would say that if you don't really know, if you know that a person is very strongly religious, I mean, I don't want to be in the closet about my religion, but I don't go into it as much, you know? Like, with them, they don't really need to know that much about me and my religious beliefs. They just need to feel understood and appreciated and accepted. So, without talking about what I believe at all, I just kind of understand and appreciate and accept them and validate whatever comments they say. If it's someone that you think you're going to be getting to know really well, I'd like drop hints of it, you know, like I'd say something just offhanded, introducing the fact that I am an atheist and I don't believe in God. And if it seems like it's going to make them uncomfortable, I don't go too much more into it. And then, of course, you know, if it's a question about, you know, whether or not you're afraid that they're going to assume that you're a bad person because you don't believe in God, then I'll, you know, maybe I'll start a little discussion talking a little bit about the positive, again, I mean, that's what our group is about, is promoting positive atheism, the positive aspects to being an atheist.
Right.
Well, all the reasons why I am a moral person, and all the things that I do believe are good and wonderful and beautiful about the world, and even the reasons why I appreciate their religion. I do appreciate a lot of things about the function that religion serves in the world when it's used appropriately. You know, and the function that religion can serve in people's lives, you know, individually. Andy?
I personally deal with it by trying to not avoid bringing it up, but waiting until it comes upon me. Like, if I meet someone new, I don't immediately, hey, I'm Andy and I'm an atheist. I just talk to them and do what I would normally do, and if the subject comes up, I don't hide from it, but I wait for the subject to come up by itself. And I've learned that that is an easier way to deal with it, because if someone gets to know you and they learn what you're about, then that shouldn't matter. I've had people tell me before, after finding out, after I'd known them for months, how can you be atheist because you're one of the most moral people I know, and things like that. But they got to know me before they got to see me.
Yeah.
They didn't get that stereotype of, oh, an evil atheist in their head. They got to know me, and then they found out that I was atheist. So it was just, oh, well, that's not, that atheism doesn't define who I am as a person. It just defines where I stand on beliefs. Where in respect to religion. And so I work as hard as I can to just be me, and if the subject comes up, deal with it then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay?
Okay, well, thanks for the information.
You're welcome. Thank you. Great. That was an excellent answer, Andy.
Thank you.
Absolutely, I forgot to mention that. Let someone get to know you first, and then tell them you're an atheist. To simplify it. Okay. I guess I'm going to go to Sue on line 3. Sue, hi.
Hi, ladies. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. The first thing I wanted to talk to you about was several times you were talking about the bagel shop. The meetings aren't at the bagel shop anymore, I don't think.
Oh, goodness. Did I say that?
Yeah.
You're right. I'm sorry. I'm a creature of habit. The meetings are at Crescent City Beignets. The bagel shop closed.
Right.
Thank you for correcting me.
Also, when you were talking about children in grief or children and I don't think I would tell a child that someone just went to sleep and didn't wake up, because that might make them afraid to go to sleep. I might talk to them about if they had a disease and they had a lot of pain or something. I might say, well, now they're free from the pain, or give them some comfort in that way. But I really don't think I'd say, you know, they just didn't wake up one morning. It make the kids wonder.
I mean, it depends. That's probably a better answer, or at least a way to address, you know, why it's not necessarily a bad thing that they died. And it depends on the cognition of the individual child, you know, how much you can go into it, you know, explain to them.
I think you're right about pets. I think pets taught me a lot about life and death.
Yeah.
And,
oh, boy, I mean, I had cats, and we had dead lizards and mice and
yeah,
all over our house growing up.
Yeah, we sure did, too. We sure did, too. My children are older, so it wasn't a real problem when we had to deal with my father dying. You were talking about a funeral being kind of well, my family's always believed the funerals were for the living, not for the dead. And what we ended up doing was, after actually putting my father in his grave, we rented a hall and had a good old-fashioned wake, a good party. Serious. We had a band, and served alcohol for those who wanted to drink, and we sat around and drank and had a lot of fun, danced, and talked about my dad. I mean, that's what my family does.
Yeah.
And although we're not all atheists, we do have some serious religious people in our family. It works for all of us to get together in that way. I'd say we were like a 50-50 mix. It's not wrong in my family to be either way.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, though, you said that you were a cultural... You practice cultural Judaism? What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean by that is I am Jewish by blood. Both my parents are Jewish, and both their parents were Jewish, and, you know, my ancestry stretches back. So I am 100% Jew. I believe that Judaism is unique from a lot of religions out there because it is very, very cultural. I mean, about, you know, all of... It's harder in Christianity because all of the things that you celebrate and all the things you observe are like, today we're celebrating the day Jesus was born, and today we're celebrating the day Jesus died, and today we're celebrating the day Jesus was resurrected, and today we're celebrating Jesus' last meal. But in Christianity, all Jewish holidays are, they tried to kill us, we won, let's eat. So, you know, every Jewish holiday is about a group of people coming together, trying to make a life for themselves, and somebody comes in and tries to defeat us because they think that we're bad and evil and wrong for whatever reason. We stole their land, we don't believe in their God, you know, and so that kind of history together really bonds you together.
Like the oil burning but that's like a miracle, right?
Well, if you're talking about the story of Hanukkah,
right.
The story of the miracle of the oil burning for 8 days is really the children's version of the story of Hanukkah. The story of Hanukkah is about a war between the Maccabees and somebody else, I don't even remember, and the Jewish army was really, really small, and the other army was really, really big, and they came in and they destroyed all of our stuff, and we won anyway. I mean, somehow the real miracle of the story of Hanukkah is that even though we were this really small army, this really weak army, and they had bigger and better weapons than us, and I mean, we won anyway. We won the war, and we survived, and we
It's more of a celebration of your people.
They came in, yeah, it's a celebration of the survival of our people, and they came, you know, they came in and they destroyed our temple. And there was some, I mean, I think part of where the legend of the candle that burned for 8 days was that they allegedly came in and destroyed our temple, but the Holy flame that was never supposed to go out was still burning, or something along those lines. But I mean, really, the important point of the story is you know, it's about persecution and perseverance. You know.
So you don't have a problem. I was just wondering if you would have for example, for me to participate too seriously with Easter would be real hypocritical, because I really don't believe that. But
I mean, again, Easter is the day that Jesus was resurrected, and I don't know what that has to do with eggs or bunny rabbits, but I mean,
I don't know either. But you don't have
no, because
a hypocritical kind of feeling with.
I don't at all, because I mean, again, and in most of the traditions in Judaism are just a way of feeling like you're a part of that history and bringing back that history and the story of that. I mean, if you celebrate any Jewish holiday, like, everything that you eat and everything that you do has some connection with the story. I mean, on Passover, you know, the entire meal consists of symbols. I mean, you have this paste made from apples and all this sweet stuff, but the paste is sweet, which represents the sweetness of freedom, but it looks like, I mean, it's a paste, so it's supposed to look like mortar, which is the you know, what the slaves were forced to work with when they were building the houses and temples for the Egyptians. You know, you have these bitter herbs that represent the bitterness of slavery, and you dip it in salt water, which represents the tears that the Jews shed. And I mean, all the traditions are very, very cultural, and you know, when I practice Judaism, I mean, I've been to Hebrew school, I've been bar mitzvahed, I've been confirmed, I grew up and I was in a high school youth group, and then I was in, you know, a college, you know, Jewish group, and then I grew up and I was working at a Jewish community center. I've been very active my whole life, and as part of taking that into myself as an atheist, I make sure that I'm not just doing the traditions out of habit, but I'm learning about every single one of them. And if there's a tradition I don't agree with, I don't do it. I mean, I go to a Reformed temple because I love it, and it makes me feel very good to be there. But I don't read any of the prayers that are in English, because they, first of all, are in English, which isn't very traditional, and second of all, spend a lot of time talking about God. And even though the prayers that are in Hebrew spend a lot of time talking about God, the point to me is that it's Hebrew, which is a very traditional and cultural language and makes me feel connected to my ancestors, even though I don't actually speak Hebrew. And it's a prayer that's been recited by me and my mother and my mother's mother and my ancestors all the way back. And you go into this group and the whole congregation is saying the same prayer, and it just kind of brings you together. And I mean, as an atheist, I do feel free to pick and choose which parts I don't do, because I don't feel like they have as much to do with the cultural aspect as to do with the God aspect.
What does the Jewish community feel about whether you believe or not?
Whether you believe or not? It depends on
reaction to that?
It depends on which sect of Judaism you're talking to. In Hasidic and Orthodox Judaism, I'm sure it's very, very important that you believe in God. In Reformed Judaism, it's actually pretty common to be a Jewish atheist. Reformed Jews are pretty secular, pretty modern, pretty liberal, and I actually know a good deal of Jewish atheists, and I've even had a lot of Jews come out to me as an atheist when they find out that I'm one. And it's really not that uncommon. And in Reformed Judaism, you know, they're not bothered by it, because the important thing is that we're keeping the tradition and the history alive, and that we're staying together as a people and continuing it.
That's real interesting. Thanks because I'm very ignorant of the Jewish faith. I have admired the Jewish faith from afar, because with the little bit that I have known, but I've been very ignorant. I've always wondered how that would work. I was raised myself in a northern congregational church, and they weren't real strong on that you had to believe in God. They were real strong on, this is the Bible that has these things in it, and we think these things are pretty good, as far as like the Golden Rule. And they taught my church that I was raised in, even though you were encouraged to believe in God, you didn't have to in order to still be a member in good standing. It was it was
good.
The way that you react to other people. No, my children aren't in any church at all because down here I can't find anything equivalent to that at all.
Now, ideally, I mean, that's how all religions should be. Ideally, if you listen to what it actually says in the Bible, thou shalt not judge. I mean, ideally, you should accept everybody, and if you really believe that, then even if your brother or sister or next-door neighbor doesn't believe in God, it shouldn't really be your place to judge that, as long as they're still a good person and they still live a good life.
Well,
and that's
thanks for answering my questions, even if they might have been a little intrusive.
Oh, no, not at all. No, those are excellent questions. Thank you very much for calling into the show.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So, going now to Mike on line 2. Hi, Mike.
Hi.
Hi. How's it going?
I'm a scientist. I'm retired and have a lot of time to think. And I see y'all's show a few times, and I was wondering, science has never gotten a handle on mind or spirit or personality, consciousness. We know it's hooked to the brain somehow, but you can't say it weighs so much and occupies such and such a space. And what is your take? I mean, it's something outside of the physical universe in some way, or could be. A lot of religions are based on it: mind, spirit, soul, ka, whatever you want to call it. What is your take on that? Do you think there's anything beyond just the 3 dimensions and the physical world?
I can't say. I do believe that everybody has a unique personality, and I do believe that everybody has a spirit, not as a supernatural entity that when you die your spirit is going to float out of your body and fly away and go somewhere else or enter somebody else's body. But, I mean, I do believe in individuality, and I believe that that's a cross between nature and nurture. I mean, I believe that every single person, it is impossible to have identical experiences growing up. And whatever happens to you from the day that you're conceived to the day that you're born to the day that you die, you know, is going to affect, you know, and your gene pool and your heritage and the way your brain is wired and the experiences that happen to you are all going to affect how you grow up and have your personality be. And I had a real curveball thrown to me a little while ago. I met another atheist, and this was a theory that I hadn't heard before, and it took me a really long time to wrap my brain around it, but when I did, it made a lot of sense. It was the question of, do atheists believe in free will? And until I had talked to him, I was like, well, heck yeah. I mean, there's no God out there controlling your free will, so of course we all have free will. And then he broke it down for me to say, well, if you're an atheist, then you tend to believe that everything that happens to you is either a cross between the way some, you know, neurons and chemicals and things interact with each other, or is random. You know, like either it's all cause and effect, or it's random. And if it's either cause and effect or random, then it's not free choice either way.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And, I mean, you know, I certainly believe, you know, I like all those movies like The Butterfly Effect that illustrate the fact that if you just went back in your life and just changed one little tiny detail, then your whole universe could have been different.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's just that, you know, there's no scientific handle on that whatever immaterial thing it is that makes us, each one of us.
Well,
I mean,
no, and I think that's because science is more nature and less nurture. I think you're getting a cross between sociology and science here, and they don't necessarily work together very often. I mean, if you talk to a psychologist, they could probably talk a lot more about your personality, but they couldn't talk too much about, you know, how that's related to the neurons and stuff in your brain. And if you talk to a scientist, they could talk about all that biological stuff, but not about the psychology part.
There's actually a movement in psychology to become more of a hard science than a social science. They're working to do stuff like teach about neurons. I'd learned about neurons, more specific about all the receptors and stuff. I learned about that in psychology and not in biology.
Yeah.
So they're working toward trying to find that interaction. And figure out how much of it is our decisions and what we're predestined to do by our previous experiences and things like that.
Yeah, well, that's when you get down to the DNA and the molecular level, you're getting into quantum physics, which is very iffy. It's all just probabilities, and they really don't understand it. It's just that there's something that can't be touched by science in a person. You can be brain damaged and you changed your personality, but you're still the same person. You can lose limbs and whatnot, but you're still the same person. It's something in the brain, and I just wondered what your take on, is there anything more than just the reactions of chemical and electrical brain stuff?
I think it's a reaction between the chemicals in your brain and what your DNA tells your brain to do and your experiences. Mm-hmm. If you break it down, that's the only way to define it, because even identical twins who have the exact same DNA turn out to sometimes be very different people, have very different interests, but they've all had, even though they're identical and they were raised the same way, in the same family doesn't necessarily mean they were raised the same way. It's an interaction between the two, or at least that's my belief on that topic. It's something about the way your environment affects the way your brain operates.
Yeah, and there's a certain amount of that's hardwired. Some people are born, musicians. Some are born athletic or whatnot. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for calling in. Okay. I am also getting a note from the studio that Ginny is going to be here soon. Yay. So any of you that have questions about how you raise children can ask her that, because she has a lot more experience than either Andy or I have. I'm going to go to Ty is calling back again. Ty?
Yeah, speaking of the children and Jenny, Kim had called earlier. She had a 4-year-old daughter that had...
4-year-old
grandmother.
Niece, actually, yeah.
Yeah, she had a grandmother that passed away, and she was wondering about how to explain to her where she went and all that jazz.
Mm-hmm.
But go ahead and tell her what you believe, because she's going to be experiencing all kind of different beliefs.
I can tell her what I believe, sure. And,
Kim should go ahead and tell her niece what she believes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as simple as that, because...
Well, you got to take it one step at a time. Just go ahead and do that. That's the first step. And
I guess it's also a harder question when it's somebody else's children. I mean, if I believe something very, very different than my sister believes, then it's not really necessarily my place to explain my version of death to my niece.
Yeah, but she's going to hear so many different points of view.
Sure.
And she's going to come up with her own point of view.
Absolutely.
And that's
As
true.
we all did.
But it can affect family relationships. Like me with my family is religious, and I'm obviously atheist. And I've been in situations with my nephew before where my mom, having the house decorated at Christmas, has the Jesus birth scene in the manger and stuff. And my nephew would ask me what that is, and so I'd have to, real cautious, be like, well, Mommy and Grandma and Uncle David and so believe this. And it's really an awkward situation, because when I was explaining that to my nephew, my sister was standing over my shoulder and was like, oh my God, an atheist is teaching my son, blah, blah, blah. So and if I had approached that differently, or if I'd tried things a little bit different or tried to explain to him what I thought, it may have caused a problem between me and my sister, which could have caused a problem with me being able to see my nephew, who I love.
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot more than just the kid understanding what you believe or what their parents believe. It can cause a problem within the family.
Yes, but that should come out before you deal with the child. Yes, I understand you don't want to be broached with that question with that child at that point, and you should avoid that as much as possible. And you should find a way to deal with that sister of yours or whatever, and they should already have an understanding of yours that you are not going to be direct towards their beliefs. And
yeah, but sometimes other people aren't as open-minded as others.
It's coming out of the closet. It's like we're all closet atheists. I mean, everybody, it's like being gay, you know, you kind of keep it to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you come out slowly, but you let them know slowly, and your sister or whoever would pick up on that. And, yeah, you don't want to be broached with that question from the child, of course. So, yeah, it's a difficult situation to deal with.
It's absolutely difficult, and it was very hard for me when I was dealing with it. And like I was saying earlier, I can control how open-minded I am, but I can't control how open-minded she is. My sister was fully aware of my lack of belief at the time that occurred.
Okay. But that 4-year-old girl is going to grow up with so many different views, from her parents' views, from your views. She may come up with something so totally different from what all of us believe. No matter how driven in facts we are, she may come up with something so off the wall.
Yeah.
So it's just, I mean, it's a give and take. It's just crazy. People can just make up so much crap. But if you deal with facts, and that's what I want to say is that atheism, it's not just a lack of a belief in a God. It's just that we don't see any evidence of a God. We're not willing. I mean, it's not that we're just not going to accept any views of a God. We haven't seen anything reasonable yet to make us believe in a God.
Exactly.
Right. And, you know, I mean, the most, if not all, atheists out there would say, if you showed us with unrefutable and verifiable evidence, then sure, we'd believe in God.
Right.
What we don't have is faith.
And Mike had called in, the scientist, and as a scientist, you should deal with the scientific method. And the first point of the scientific method is observation.
Mm-hmm.
Do you observe a God out there? You can't observe some spirit out there. So that's the first thing.
Well, a lot of religious people will answer that by saying that, you know, they observe it in the trees and in nature and in the beauty they see around them.
Well, a lot of flaky people will say a lot of flaky things, but as factual-based people, we're not going to deal with that kind of thing, with that kind of thought.
Right. I mean, if I see a tree, I'm going to think of it as a tree.
Myself, and everybody on that stage, we're dealing with facts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the facts presented is what we're going to deal with. Empirical evidence is what leads our thoughts or our beliefs.
Right.
We're not just going to make up some belief or just follow some belief.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Well, hello.
Yeah, I'd like to introduce Jenny. We are now officially an all-women show. I mean, we were all women before, but it's easier to say all women than when there's more than two of you. Yay!
Yay.
Welcome,
Sorry,
Jenny, to the show.
Hello, everyone.
She had a valid excuse. She was doing her hair.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay. So, anyway, Jenny, tell us about you a little bit, and then we'll go on with callers.
Okay. Well, let's see. I'm a mother of 3. I've been an atheist for many, many, many years. I have a pretty liberal outlook on life, I think. Have a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Love life. Don't need religion to love my life.
Mm-hmm. Raising your children as atheists?
Yes, you bet.
Mm-hmm. You pulled them out of school, I understand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a homeschooler, which is not just for Christians anymore.
Right.
So, anyway.
And I do believe you also have some interesting children's books on the topic.
Yes, I do. I have something called Just Pretend, and the name of the author escapes me at the moment.
I don't know.
But he used to actually be a preacher, this guy. And then he decided that everything that, you know, he thought about religion was kind of not right, and wrote several children's books. And so, pretty matter of fact with my kids about everything, even death, which I think I caught the tail end of a conversation about.
It originally started, Kim had called into the show.
Oh,
and she had said that recently her 4-year-old nephew had her 4-year-old niece had a grandmother die.
Yes, her grandmother.
A grandmother die, and how do you, you know, the niece, I guess, asked her.
What happens when you die?
What happens when you die?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I've never been one to mince words with my kids, I tell my kids exactly what's going on because I don't want them to ever doubt my word later on in life. So,
like, wait a second, before you told me this.
Right. I put it as gently as I can, but I'm going to impress upon my children that death is a final thing, that we have one shot at life, and we need to make the most of it, and that we need to really appreciate the people that we love and care for while they're here with us. And of course, I can tell them all the same things that, that person, as long as you have your memories of that person, they're always going to be a part of you. And just because, they've moved, out of your life physically, you still have a memory. You still have things to reflect on. Now it's not as great as, hey, you're going to see him again someday, but it's the best we've got.
Right.
So.
Right.
As long as you have those memories, though, you can see them every day in your head.
Now, you recently had your grandfather die. Both.
Yes.
And I believe you took Ben to see them before they died.
I did, yes. Now, I have a 2-year-old, and he's, of course, too young to understand anything like what, getting old is and people dying. But it was important for me, just for some closure, that he get to meet his great-grandparents before they left. And, later on in life, I'll be able to tell him, you actually met your great-grandmother, or, you met your great-grandfather, and they loved you very much, and we're so thrilled with you, and at least he'll have that. So,
great.
I don't tell my kids that there's a Santa Claus either, which I've had a lot of people say that's just mean, and how cool.
He found out about Santa Claus anyway.
But, I know. They were like, Santa Claus is just pretend.
What was that happened? He was, my nephew was looking at a book that had a picture of a dragon on it, and he looked at the dragon's claws, and he said, they're sharp nails. And I said, yeah, they're called claws. And he said, like Santa Claus?
Oh, yes, he's all kinds of cuteness.
Anyway. Okay, I'm going to go to the next caller now. On line 2 is, line 3 was Mel. Hi, Mel.
Hi.
Hi.
I applaud you guys. I think you're terrific.
Thank you.
And I don't know, I guess I thought the term atheist had such a negative connotation, but after I, viewed you and you're like, okay, people.
Hey, we're real people. We're not that different from the rest of the world.
So I had a question. I just finished a book called The Last Days of Ancient Sunlight by Tom Hartman. It's an excellent read. And he discussed about collective consciousness in there. I don't know if you've actually kind of delved into that reality, but...
Collective consciousness. No,
I'm familiar with the concept, and I'm probably familiar with the book, but I haven't read it.
I haven't read the book.
I haven't read the book either.
The only thing I know about collective consciousness is the Borg. Star Trek. You will be assimilated, that kind of thing.
Goodness.
I know. Okay, I'm a geek. That's all I know.
Okay.
About collective consciousness.
Was there something
and maybe like hive behavior. Bees, I think, have kind of a possible, well, it's not consciousness, but they kind of act as a
collective goal.
Yeah.
They have a collective motive, but I don't know if that's a collective consciousness.
No, but it's amazing, like even well, let's have the caller tell us. What do you think about the book?
What about it?
Well, I guess he went into the fact that all life is sacred, that there's a real divine reality to all living things, and that we all have this collective consciousness, is how he described it. And some examples he gave were like ancient civilizations, and through anthropology they've discovered these insights to these ancient peoples, and the way they lived their life in total harmony with the earth, where they utilized this collective consciousness is the way he described it, to find where edible food was. and that the two hemispheres of man's brains at those times used more audible. It was more audible, and today we're so visual. But it was quite interesting, and I guess I get on that concept. People say, I don't believe in God, but that's what God is to me. It's life. It's all living life, you know, and it's in us. I mean, it's not like a man with a long beard.
Yeah. Well, and again, I mean, I talked about this a little bit at the beginning of the show. I certainly believe that every life is sacred. And while that life itself is sacred, I don't think that I believe in a collective consciousness, though. And I certainly don't believe that humans live in harmony on the planet Earth.
I think that's that's a goal that should, you know, I know I want to live in harmony with people and nature.
Oh, sure, it's a goal. Of course it's a goal.
I wouldn't say, to me, life is precious. I wouldn't use the word sacred, because to me that indicates a mystical aspect of life. And I can't really accept any kind of mysticism. But I do think that life is very precious. And
you don't think that the birth of your children was a miracle?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay.
I don't think of it as a miracle in the sense of like an
wasn't
entity
out of the ordinary
or something. Yeah, I mean,
I would think a miracle would have to be sort of like an exception to the rule, and childbirth happens millions of times every year.
I mean, I definitely think that the birth of my children is significant and wonderful, and children are great, and life is just so awesome. You don't really, in my opinion, you don't have to attach a mystical reasoning behind it. Reproduction is reproduction. It happens every day. What we see all around us, our planet is so amazing, and everything in it is so amazing that you just don't need a mystical explanation for it all. That's what science is for. We have science to tell us how things evolved and what's out there. And that's just freaky and amazing all on its own. And wonderful, too.
Yeah.
But like Karen said, it would be a nice goal to live harmoniously with our fellow beings on this planet.
I think that's what he was trying to describe, the collective consciousness, is that if you intentionally put that thought in your action to create harmony by your actions, by the things you do on a day-to-day basis, that's elevating life to a higher purpose.
Yeah. Don't you think, though, that you can do that just by committing random acts of kindness?
Exactly.
If it all comes down to this. It comes down to mutual respect for your fellow man. If you put a lot of good out there, and you are kind to people, and you're in situations where you're going to spread that around, and other people are going to feel good, they'll follow by example, perhaps. Not always. We would like them all to, but, maybe in a sense that could be considered kind of a collective thing, because people are learning from other people. They're following by example. I don't see any invisible, mystical force that has to be behind all of that. As a society, we just naturally want to get along because it benefits us all if we do.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. I'll let someone else talk. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, great.
Do you have any more calls?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got Jeremy. Hi, Jeremy.
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
I just wanted to tell the believers that science doesn't have the answers yet.
Right, exactly.
I don't know why they're always demanding answers or wanting to laugh in the face of scientists, but...
And I think that's a big difference between atheists and theists, is that if you have a question and you don't know the answer and you're a theist, you're going to say the answer is God, no matter what the question is. If you're an atheist and you have a question and you don't know what the answer is, you're going to say, I don't know.
Exactly.
And you know, there's no shame in saying, I don't know.
Exactly. I mean, how easy is it to just say that this invisible creature did everything, give them all credit? It's pretty silly.
Yeah, right.
It's pretty sad, actually. But whatever.
Right, okay.
Anyway, I could talk forever, but I'm not going to.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
I take it Jeremy's an atheist from the way he is
sounded like he was an
talking.
atheist, yeah.
You should come down to the to our weekly meetings and meet some of us face to face and have somebody to talk to forever about it.
Crescent City Beignets, not the bagel shop like I've been saying. Crescent City Beignets on Sundays from starting at 11:30, 6th Street, and west of Lamar somewhere. And Antonio's Tex-Mex on Thursdays at 7 o'clock. We always like to have more atheists there, and you don't actually have to be an atheist to show up, but, you know, we get there to get together and socialize and have fun, not necessarily to pick fights.
It's a lot of fun. I sure miss the Sunday morning meetings and Thursdays.
Okay, great. Well, we have Mitch on line 3. Hi, Mitch.
Hi. I'm from a small West Texan town, and there's a lot of Southern Baptists there, and I'm just wondering how to make the transition, because I feel like I've been brainwashed a little bit. So, I mean, I agree with a lot of things you've been saying, but it's just down in my heart, like there's stuff where it's hard to completely believe because I'm sort of scared and I just don't know what to do about that.
I think that that's real natural, first of all. Anybody who questions their belief system to that extent, you're reaching really deep down into your psyche, for one thing, for everything that you've been taught all your life.
Right, right.
The problems with religion, there are many, but one of the biggest problems is that it is all really based on fear. If you don't believe a certain way, then you're going to be punished for eternal, damnation. And, it's scary, too, when you pull the rug out from under you of everything that you've ever known. That's a real process.
So how do I cope, and how do I just understand that?
By talking to other people who've been through it, by talking to others, by reading some good books. It sounds to me like reassurance is very important when you're trying to make that transition and you're asking those questions. For me, there was some fear involved as well. And I needed to really ask those questions and really, really dig deep to find those answers that I found would satisfy. And after I went through that, I came out of it on the other side going, wow, it was like a burden lifted. It was just an incredible feeling of freedom. When you say, well, you've been atheist all your life.
I can't say.
So you can't say. Well, what about you, Andy?
I'd have to agree with what you said. I have been atheist almost my entire life. I don't honestly ever remember believing it, but I was raised around Christianity and raised with all the, eternal damnation if you don't believe, all those kind of things. And it was kind of scary to be sitting there and thinking, something's wrong with me. Why am I not feeling the same way as other people who I'm around? And what I found helped me deal with that was, first of all, finding out what the label for it was. I told everybody, said earlier that I didn't know what atheist actually meant other than that it was a bad thing until I was in high school. And I learned what the actual term means. And once I had that label, okay, well, there's not something wrong with me because there's a label for it, so there has to be other people that are like this. But the biggest thing was being around ACA, being around a group of people who had a similar view on that as me. And through that, I learned that, you can deal with anything if you have other people around you. And yeah, you're still having the problems. I still have some problems with my family. I still have issues coming from my decision to not believe. But I always have the support and the backup I need no matter what happens if I just turn to my friends. And so it's about education and friendship to me to deal with those issues.
So were you afraid of being disowned? Because my family is very involved in the church in West Texas, and my dad's actually a minister, so how do I deal with that? I mean, is there a coming out process for atheists, or how does that work?
Well, I can't help out much on that. My family found out from a friend of mine that broke my trust and went to my family, so I never actually was the one who came out to them. When they found out and they confronted me on it, I told them. But since then, my mom and I had a lot of problems for several years after she found out. But the way I personally dealt with it is I decided to show her, I can respect you if you can respect me, and I ended up giving her some real religious gift one day, and using that as a token of, I respect what you believe, can you please respect what I believe?
It's not always that easy, and certainly, especially if you have, if your family members, like your parents, are ministers or priests or whatever. I think that it's going to all boil down to what kind of relationship you have with them to begin with. If they respect you as a person, yeah, they're going to have a lot of fear for you, probably. They're Baptist, you said?
Yes, they're Southern Baptist.
Southern Baptist, yeah, it could get really rough. You might want to, before you even go that route, you may want to just explore your own feelings first and become very comfortable with your decision, one way or the other, on what you're going to base your life philosophy on. Be rock solid in that first. Be okay with it before you would come out with it with your family.
And you know, we have a list, an atheist discussion list, off of our website, www.atheist-community.org, and a lot of people go onto the list. A lot of people talk about it, and they bring up any issues in the news. They bring up issues in their own lives, and it's a good place that you can go. You can sign on to that list, and you can, if you have questions like this, or if you have a situation that comes up in your life that you don't know how to deal with, you can put it out there. And there's a lot of other people that have been through similar experiences as you, and they can give you some reassurance, comfort, advice. You know, we get asked the same philosophical question over and over and again. We'll talk about it on the list until everybody knows how to answer it. You know, anything like that. It's a good place to go for more information.
Well, I thank y'all.
All right.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Good
and
luck.
Good luck. Okay, we're getting close to the end of the show. I think we have time for one more caller. It's going to be Tony on line 1, and then we're going to wrap it up. Hi, Tony.
Hi.
What's up?
Are you there?
Yes. Are you there?
Yeah, but my name's Stanley.
Stanley?
Yeah, you can talk to me.
Okay, well, we'll talk to you. Somebody didn't update my
I just wanted to, I've never seen y'all on here, and I wanted to tell you something right quick. Just because you're people, I wanted to tell you something that I know, and I'm not trying to scare you, okay? I just want you to know that God is real, or Jesus, whichever way you want to look at it. I was in my pickup one day, and I was talking to God, and He interrupted me. I'm not going to tell you what He said, because I know that y'all use things, you know, that people say, but I want you to know this for your own well-being. He did talk to me, and one time I almost died. I've got diabetes real bad, and I went up a tunnel, and I ended up with him at a table and 4 other men, and I floated in the air. I didn't see his face. The Bible says no man has seen the face of God and lived, but I saw him from a back angle. And then I came back. My wife was shaking me, trying to wake me up, and I come back. I couldn't even talk. I'd been without air for a long time, but after a while I was able to talk, and I revealed to her what I saw. But he talked to me prior to that ever happening.
Okay.
I was actually just praying and talking to him one day, and he actually interrupted my thinking.
All right.
And I just want y'all to know it's real for your own well-being, and I want you to consider that. I'm not trying to scare you about religion,
Okay.
but I'm telling you
Thank
the truth.
you. I appreciate your anecdote. I'm afraid I'm going to have to cut you off because we're getting down to the end of the show, but thanks for calling in.
Okay.
I'm not scared. Are you scared?
No, I'm not scared.
Yeah, I'm not scared.
You know, there's a lot of physical explanation for what he experienced.
Okay.
So
anyway, great. Well, it was the show got off to a really rocky start, but I think it was a pretty good show, and I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to bring you the all-women's episode of the Atheist Experience. I'd like to give special thanks to our co-hosts Andy Roberts.
Thank you.
And our guest, Virginia Glasser. If you have any additional questions that didn't get answered, you're welcome to email tv@atheist-community.org. And thank you very much.